Hello and welcome to another episode of Test, Optimize, and Scale. It's an honor to have Brooke Chapman here with us today, Executive Director at 3x3 in Brisbane, Australia. Brooke, thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks, Jason.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I know you work with SMBs on their marketing and focus on negative tactical cycles, getting them out of there and onto healthy growth patterns. Something that we definitely point entrepreneurs to as well with this podcast. So I've been looking forward to our discussion and thought we'd begin with your story, with your background.
Yeah, sure. So, look, I've had a number of chief marketing officer roles with large multinationals. So do my two co-directors. And what we noticed on our journey as marketers was that big end of town, that large enterprise size business, they've got the strategy covered. They've got someone like me in their business that is, thinking about how to link the business goals with the tactical marketing implementation. But for SMBs, they don't have that. When we think about SMBs, their business is turning over anywhere from, $1 million to $100 million. They typically don't have, that person in there that is looking after strategy. So we've got a situation where SMBs have just really been starved of any type of strategic oversight when it comes to their marketing. They understand their operating market, they've got some sort of business plan, but then they skip right over marketing strategy and go into tactics. And that's where we can see things go wrong. We see them in these negative cycles where they're, it's what we call random acts of marketing, but nothing is delivering a really strong commercial return. So we've developed a framework to get businesses out of that cycle, have them working with agencies with, really positive long-term engagements. The agencies have got the information they need. The businesses are ready and prepared for the engagement, and we can actually look at getting strong ROI as opposed to a whole heap of disappointment. So that's really what we work on, Jason.
Absolutely. We do not want that heap of disappointment. I see the disconnect from strategy and marketing and the random acts of marketing. I like that saying quite a bit, going to be using it. And I think it's important to emphasize that number, as you mentioned, $1 million to $100 million. It really positions the majority of businesses into the category of SMB.
Totally. It's the lion's share of businesses out there, but they have not had any type of resource that they can tap into to, first of all, as a business leader, understand marketing, to make it clear, to direct the function with clarity and with confidence, and then also to build strategic capability with their internal teams. We really wanted to break that down. Marketing as an industry, we've kind of done ourselves no favors, right? It's so broad. There's so many different things you could be doing. For a small business owner that might be very strong operationally in their business or with finance, but not necessarily with marketing, it can be very overwhelming engaging with marketing. So we really have taken an approach to educate SMB leaders, have them coming from a position of strength to talk about marketing, and giving them something that they can engage with and get excited about marketing, rather than feeling that it's this black hole or this thing that eats up some of their money and they don't really know what happens after that.
Sure. And I see groups get so focused on the expense and how can we test things out at a low level? What can we just do as one tactic? We don't really want to put the time into strategy and, have these dead periods before growth is really even part of the equation. When we're really looking at the end result and not just for month one of a marketing spend, but what does month 12, what does month 18 look like? Multiple years down the line. So being able to entangle that a bit. And I love how you talked about strategy as a roadmap towards the advancement of their goals. What does strategy look like for you? I know we have a model called the 8-point plan. We do it over the course of a month, industry overview, competitor marketing audit, before getting into audience channels and creative and basically everything leading into projections. But what type of process do you take SMBs down to really dial down their strategy and get them ready to start rolling out their marketing?
Yeah, look, it sounds like we take a similar approach to you. You have to do the work. You have to prepare yourself. Everyone, of course, wants to get into the campaigns and they want to get to it hitting the market and seeing those leads come in and that those dollars come in. But it just doesn't work that way. You have to do the pre-work. So we have what we call the 9 boxes. It's a framework that businesses can work through, and it's 9 core competencies of marketing and sales. And the reality is, in today's world, gone are the days where you stumble upon a channel or you pick a channel and that's it. All your marketing problems are solved. You go viral. You've got customers, coming in from everywhere. It just doesn't happen that way. Those 9 core areas, you need to be working on all of them and improving all of them. Maybe not all at the same time, but you do need to have a plan for all of those areas. And when you're methodically working through those 9 core disciplines, that's where you see those long-term sustainable growth trajectories. So those 9 core boxes that I talked about, it's around your market position, your capability within your business, your channel mix, your buyer's journey, and making sure that's mapped for each of your customer segments, your communication, so all important brand and all of the touch points. Starting conversations is about how sales and marketing work together and making sure that they're managing different parts of the customer journey and having seamless handoffs. Products and services. So, are you keeping pace with what your consumers actually want? And, are they going to pick up what you put down? Client management. So making sure you understand who is a good customer for you and who is a bad customer for you, and you're filtering them in and out accordingly. And then finally, client service. So it's always easier to market to your existing customers and build strong lifetime value than to bring new customers into the fold. That's always going to cost you more. So there are 9 core areas, and we work with businesses to do an initial assessment. We determine how you're tracking across each of those 9 areas, and then we build a roadmap for you and a plan that is prioritized according to which boxes are going to give you the most strategic impact. So that's how we work with businesses. And then we will stick with you for the next 6, 12, 18 months, working alongside your team to actually get you where you're going.
Oh, wow. So you guys build the plan and then stay on board for 12 to 18 months to ensure that it's coming to life. If it needs to be pivoted, those optimizations are taking place, and you're part of that discussion as it turns to scale.
Yeah, we do. So, look, it is very much in a part-time capacity. We take the place of a coach and a mentor, coaching the business leader in how to direct and run marketing. Also, coaching and mentoring the internal team as to how to make more strategic decisions. So we're certainly not in the business every day, but we are having regular catch-ups with you and making sure that everything stays on track. This is where a lot of strategies go wrong. They're developed, they might be really great pieces of work, but then they can sit in the top drawer and not see the light of day when people get busy. So it is an important part of the process to have the strategist there to support how those projects get started. A lot of teams don't know how to get those strategic pieces going. When you hit challenges, how do we smooth those out and coach you through it? And then how do we make sure that everything gets completed and you're moving on to the next job, at a pretty good pace. So that's really the role that we play.
Absolutely. Can't leave that plan in the top drawer, as you're saying here. It's only as good as what you do with it. So being able to ensure that the deliverability is there, that the tactics are being brought to life, but all in that cohesive fashion, all as that roadmap towards the end result.
Yeah, absolutely critical. And, what we find is that it's so much more powerful for us, and the lasting impact that we can make with these businesses is through skills transfer and, teaching these businesses what we know. And then when the logical point comes where we step out of the business, they can take it forward, very ably and capably and run their own marketing for their business and get the results that they want over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What are the most transformational sections of those 9 boxes? For me, it's always been competitor marketing audit, where I'm seeing exactly what the target audiences are going to be looking at, exactly what other groups are doing to bring on market share today. And then the projections and having an algorithm for us on the digital side, it's impressions, clicks, conversions. If we're seeing anything overproduce, we change allocations of resources towards it. It also lets us know where to focus if we're not seeing performance, and where we could focus, where we could put extra efforts towards optimization. What areas do you see the biggest breakthroughs when you're working on these 9 boxes with clients?
Yeah, great question. So, the three boxes that give any business the most strategic impact are usually position, buyer's journey, and channel. So, when we talk about position, it's the cornerstone of your marketing, it's the DNA of your business. And it always surprises me that more businesses aren't reviewing and refining their position more often. As a rule of thumb, each business should be looking at their market position every 2 years, because markets do change and evolve. What we've seen with the pandemic is that most industries have changed, most consumer behavior and buying triggers have changed. So if you haven't looked at your position recently, you should be doing that. So we spend quite a bit of time making sure that that market position is clear internally and externally, and that you're delivering to it consistently. That's your North Star, and everything feeds into that. And also that that market position is capable of having some white space in the market. So if you're in a competitive glut, how do you get out of that? How do you get out of that cluster and, develop a positioning that is going to set you apart and give you some secret sauce in the market? So we spend quite a bit of time there. Buyer's journey is absolutely critical. If you do not know how your customers purchase and what that pathway is, and those moments that matter that you need to influence along that pathway, you can't pick your channel mix effectively. So we spend quite a bit of time doing customer insights, speaking to your existing customers, speaking to potential customers, and finding out what that research phase looks like. How are they buying? How do they want to have the conversation? What messages are they picking up on, and what is resonating with them? So that when we actually go to market, we can be really effective. So, important to speak to your customers and get those insights. Then it mentioned the channel mix. So making sure that those channels are appropriate for your business. Just because everyone's doing TV ads doesn't mean you should be doing TV ads. What's right for your business? And most of all, what's right for your customers? So that's what we look at. And then I love what you were saying about the way that you approach strategy in that digital space. If we, as the strategic partners of a business, can take care of position, buyer's journey, and channel, then we can hand all that insight over to you, and that can inform your strategy around how you plan your channels, how you test and optimize for the most commercial returns for the business. So we very much work with marketing agencies in a partnership on that front.
That's fantastic. And I do know many groups who are missing those other components of the strategy will be asked at times just to work on one tactic, which, if budgets are limited and timelines, we're able to get traffic there accordingly. But these are the steps towards success, exactly what you're saying. And I love how on the buyer's journey, you're actually speaking to the clients. You're actually speaking to the customers, the end consumer, the audience that you're going to be marketing to. You're able to get the findings on why they move forward, what influenced their decision. I would love to test out with the focus group and ask them about messaging, visuals, get their type of feedback, have that closed loop system. So we're not just working off assumption, you're working off their actual responses.
It's so powerful. And I think SMBs can think about research and think, they just see dollar signs, which is fair enough. But, my time in corporate, big businesses spend a lot of money on insights and research, but there are a lot of research companies, we are one of them, that is actually delivering really good value for money, customer insights programs. Sometimes we only need to speak to 12 to 15 customers to get a lot of value, and to really nail what we should, how we should be presenting the business in market and what that marketing strategy needs to be based on. And you're exactly right. We talk a lot of the time with our clients around the fact that let's make sure that our marketing strategies are based on data instead of on assumptions that can sometimes be misguided. Very much valuable to invest in an independent business that can speak to your customers, assure their anonymity, and then you really get a lot of really good, insightful feedback from them.
Sure. Now, do businesses have to be at a certain stage when they begin working with you guys? $1 million to 100 million, again, such a big range. And I know that's the standard range of SMBs. Can this be the solopreneur as they're getting started? Can it be a group that has been in business for 10 years. And, the idea of a strategy, maybe they're a bit hesitant towards, but meanwhile, this is the appropriate place for them to take a pause, really get an understanding, as you mentioned, of the position, reassess their channel mix, reassess everything. Is there better points of entry?
Yeah, look, the program does work for a range of businesses. The framework is appropriate regardless, really, of size, scale or stage of business or industry or geography. I've certainly worked on it in my corporate career using this framework with businesses turning over hundreds of millions of dollars. We've got a client at the moment turning over $2.5 million and it's working for them. There are a few things that you need though for it to work. First of all, you need a business plan. So, we are going to focus on marketing strategy. So, you've got a business strategy first, marketing strategy second, sales strategy third. So we need to have that because everything we do needs to be aligned with those business goals. So that's the first thing. Second of all, the business leaders need to be brought into this process. We just find that it doesn't work if we're working just with the people delivering the marketing work, that internal team or the agency suppliers. The leaders really need to be brought in and support the program if we're going to get transformative change. We also find that it works better when businesses are prepared to invest. They're committed, they realize it's going to take a period of time, it's not going to happen overnight, and they're prepared to commit time, resources, and some budget. You've got to spend some money to make some money. So if you're in the headspace for growth and you're ambitious about your growth targets and realistic about marketing, achieving those, that's what we're looking for in our potential clients.
Sure. And it is different looking at budget, as we were speaking to before, with the end goal in mind. So, hey, we're going to spend 100K, but it's going to produce $1 million. We work on investor marketing campaigns with those type of goals, and entry level, a bit lower, but goals of spending this much to get there. And things, of course, could be slowed down, paused, stopped. But just using those broad numbers as an example, I've found if you could see what is going to be built, if you're looking at the blueprint, you understand the development cost, but you know what the finished product is going to be. Even with the inherent risks of marketing, if you know what you're playing for, it becomes a different conversation for founders.
Oh, completely. So, you've got to spend a lot of time working on the data. So when we start working with businesses, usually while customer insights are taking place, we'll also be doing a piece of internal data analysis. So we can see where the value is in your current customer set, what is the value that we could tap into in the market. And, if we can pull together some really good goals that we can track and you can show the business leader what this could look like over time, it does become a different conversation. It doesn't become about, can we afford to do this? It becomes a conversation around, can we afford not to do this? And it's just when you're able to demonstrate what this is going to deliver in terms of growth over time, it's so powerful.
And looking at that opportunity cost, what happens if we don't do it? What are our competitors doing? What's happening in the space? Being able to take all those considerations into play.
Yeah, absolutely. And, being proactive about your marketing and your growth strategy, rather than just hoping that you'll hold on to the market share that you have, proactively going out there and securing it and grabbing more. That takes effort, takes time, does take some investment. But by being prepared and setting up the strategy from the outset, you can have a lot more confidence that when you start spending that money, it's going to deliver for you in the long term.
Absolutely. And I know when I look at the success rates of startups, they're not great. Year 1, year 2, upwards of year 5, and to some degree on an ongoing basis, but especially in those first couple years, I feel like if more groups, actively build out a full business plan, as you are stating here, put this type of market strategy into play, then take it over to their sales program. And as you mentioned, not just through different tactics out there, ran them for too short of periods of time, underfunded in many cases at that, and then wrote them off, there would be longer term survival of some of these early stage companies, higher success rates, higher growth rates, really focusing on these fundamentals and getting the buy-in from the audience, from the buyer's journey along the way. This just seems like best practices across the board.
Yeah, and I think we are starting to see a shift in that. I've definitely noticed the last couple of years, we're seeing more early stage businesses who are engaging with meaningful marketing strategy. They're wanting to understand the customer, be really clear on the problem they're solving, approach the market in smart ways, which makes a lot of sense because, in startup world, you can't afford to waste much money, right? But I think we're seeing much more of that, wanting to get it right from the get-go. Then, a few years back, we were seeing a lot more businesses that had grown quite organically. And then, they would bring us in and we would have to almost unpick the sins of the past and start again when they're, a $10, $20 million business. So I think we are seeing a lot more business leaders and entrepreneurs really appreciate that marketing is their friend. And if they think about it from the get-go, they can avoid a lot of heartache further down the track.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I found this type of research, this type of planning is always valuable. And the real time data, we work with groups that are in Web3 and they're going through massive changes right now, but there's opportunity in it, and the focus being put into builds and development and forming more trust among their partnerships and audiences, that is going to be instrumental in their 2023 plan. So the groups that are putting in the extra efforts, I believe, are going to have the strongest results in the next chapters.
Yeah, look, you can't do it on your own. As a business leader myself, I know that you have to have your group of trusted advisors that can fill in some of the gaps and some of the areas of your game that you're not strong in. You need to be able to call on those people. But as you mentioned, it is about relationships. It's all about what you put in. And this is where we feel sorry for marketing agencies sometimes, because a lot of the time, because they're doing their best, but if they're not given all the tools by the business leader in terms of the strategy, it's really hard to get the results. So, you need to build those relationships. You need to do the planning and the work. And it is really going to save you down the track.
Oh, yeah. I've written articles around how to get the most out of your agency experience. And it's all around communication. It's all around that synergy between the agency and client. For an agency, we look to be easy to work with, to communicate early, and for me, answer with algorithms to really have numbers, measurements attached to our conversations. But in a strategy process, being able to really seek out what does success look like, what's going to happen if that doesn't occur, how do we optimize, what are the next stages from there. Let's talk about what we're seeing in the market realistically, success, what ranges of it are things going to look like. And by having those chats early on, by having that alignment, it makes a world of difference. We're a team playing for the same goals. When we're brought in for one tactic and just told, hey, get us a 10x return and let us know when it's done. And we get, short little calls in between to get assets coordinated and go over reports. It's just not the same type of effectiveness that is seen throughout the campaign.
Totally. Agencies are fantastic, but they're not miracle workers, and you need the basic tools to do your job. Things like customer insights and buyer's journey maps, and making sure that the customer's got a clear view of their position that they can inform you on. And when you guys have all of those things, you know the sky's the limit. But it's very hard for you to be able to be really effective if the client is expecting you to have all the answers. So we really need it to be a bit more give and take. And that's where we feel that, when the agency cops it in the neck because, they haven't done X, Y, Z, well, we think, did they get a good brief to start with? Was it set up well? And a lot of the times that's because the client's not ready.
Sure. And it's on the agency as well to ask the right questions, to bring those comments and findings to action. So it is definitely give and take, but like you want to be able to find the right marketing partners for founders, whether it's internal, whether it's an agency, consultant, and see that communication to be the common thread, the right planning along the way. Again, these are such great fundamentals to really echo, really emphasize to SMBs and how they can emerge and get to higher levels. I like to ask some questions that could really leave listeners with things that they could do on their own, actionable insights, if you will. And from your experience, as a role, and I don't know if this gets too far into tactics, it could be more around the development of the strategy as a whole. What are some things that founders, marketers, anyone working with these groups that are listening in can test for their marketing, for their overall growth?
Yeah, I think you need to have a very strong grip on what the drivers of your business are. So again, I said that one of the first things we do is actually doing an internal data piece. What is your internal data telling you? Look at your sales revenue for the last 3 years. What is that telling you about seasonality? What is that telling you about your best converting channels? Where are your customers coming from? What is your customer feedback looking like? So, what are all of the data points that you've got? And let's do an analysis of those. And then what does it tell us? Sometimes we don't exactly know what we're looking for when we embark on this data analysis until it starts to emerge. I'm working with a client at the moment that had sort of no idea that 80% of their revenue comes from just the top 20% of their customers. And they're basically giving all their customers the same amount of time. With those 80% of customers that only represent 20% of their revenue, they need to serve them more efficiently. So we're working with them at the moment as to how they can do that. So then they free up some time to attract more of those top 20% type customers. So, having a look at what's going on in your business and understanding the drivers is one of the most powerful things that you can do. It doesn't cost you anything but time. But if you look inside your business, you will ultimately find that there are things you could be doing better, and it will give you some leads as to immediately today, this week, what you can do in your business to actually get better impact from your growth.
Data is only as good as what you do with it, similar to the plan. Being able to find those type of insights, such as, hey, it's this 20%, it's these audience segments that are really driving everything. Let's do more to reach them. Let's change up the targeting. Let's reallocate the spends, the pacing for advertising, whatever it requires to reach those groups. What about optimizing? We've already talked about optimizing towards what audiences are working best, could be further there, but particularly curious on what month 6 looks like after a strategy. If, let's say, the results are not there, I find that that's when the growth really occurs. That's when the changes can really be put into play. That's how I measure marketing talent among my team. So how do you guys optimize if it's not working right out of the gate?
Yeah, if it's not working, I think you've got to make sure you've got a continuous feedback loop. So how often are we meeting? How often are we talking about results? Are we tracking the right things? What are all the things we can track? And then what are those things telling us, and what's delivering us the most value in terms of that information? If things aren't working, then how do we split out into some testing? How do we A/B test different things? Let's keep some of the campaign the same. Let's change it up a little bit here in terms of frequency or in terms of creative. And we need to start doing things and then seeing what that does. The other thing that we like to do is, again, I'm going to talk about insights here, speak to some customers. Most good customers want to help you out. They like your business. They want to be loyal. There's nothing to say that you can't put a survey out there, get some feedback from them as to whether a campaign would work for them or not, get some feedback on a new product or whatever it is that isn't working for you, and then utilize that feedback and make the changes that are required.
Feedback loop, speak to the customers, make the changes from there, A/B test if needed, and be able to look at what can bring you next week, next month, next quarter's performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's rare that a bad result or a less than ideal result is just down to one factor. You need to be able to, this is where the 9 boxes is really powerful. You might have the communication exactly right, but the channel may be wrong. You might have the channel right, but then the client management is wrong. You're not filtering in and out leads according to your criteria and your what you've decided is right for your business. So this is where you need to really understand each of those 9 areas of your marketing and your sales, and make sure that you're delivering to them on a consistent basis, because they all work together and they're all interrelated. So you're not going to get strong success just by being strong in one field. You need to make sure that you're looking at all of them over a period of time.
Absolutely. And when we're optimizing channels, I try to look at how they're all connected and what can be moved to allow them to perform better. Like you said, maybe it's changing the channel, perhaps it's the audience, the messaging, the funnel. Want to look at productively at what we can move. So I really like how you
Yeah,
pointed out how it's all connected.
break down each of those elements of that customer experience and that journey. And, quite often you'll find that it's not one single element. A few need to be tightened up. And if you do that, you start to see a lift. We talk a lot about the fact that marketing is a game of inches. And really any gains you can get at all of those key points are going to contribute to that strong end result.
Game of inches. I like that. And thinking on how, inches add up in the course of one day's marketing spend, let alone a week, month, throughout the year, multiple years. Been working with some groups for well over 5 now and seen a lot of inches over time with them. So that's a good analogy.
It takes time. It takes time for marketing. Yeah, it really does.
And speaking to a game of inches over the course of years, what have been the top consistencies on clients that you've worked with that have achieved substantial scale? What are any tips towards scaling that you could provide? Or, let's say you're 12, 18 months into a group, post strategy, everything is firing off, and now you're looking to hit new goals. What are the best ways to approach scale?
You've got to have the right capability in your business. So, capability is really critical, and not just from a people perspective. That's obviously the major one that we look at first. Do you have the right people and the right skills to be able to get where you're going? But are there the right processes, platforms, budgets, strategy? That is such a critical foundational piece towards scale. And not only thinking about what you're doing this year, thinking about what you're doing in 3 years or 5 years. The marketing function for a business that is $10 million is fundamentally different to a business that is $50 million. And the build has to start somewhere. So thinking about that long range planning and what your business needs to look like into the future is, I think, critical to scale, and something we're engaged in for our business at the moment. I've just done a 5-year plan as to what my team is going to look like in 5 years, so that I know where I'm going and I can do it incrementally, rather than just sort of feel like I'm chasing my tail. So that would be one. I think the other thing is really and I'm sounding like a broken record now, but that understanding of customer. Which customer segments are you serving? Make sure you're not serving all of them. That's not sustainable. Who are you serving? Who's aligned with your business model? And then follow them and evolve and adapt with those segments over time. So make sure you're checking in with them, and you're updating your buyers, your customer journey maps, and you're making sure that the experience is matching up with what they are looking for and with their expectations. So I think, in marketing, we always have to have our customer hat on. And when the customer hat falls off, that's when scale can be compromised, because we aren't ultimately thinking about the customer needs in those moments.
And having an understanding from that individual customer, it can allow you to hit that scale, because if you start having holes with the customer in one case, it could continue to spread and then prevent. It could be counterproductive. You're playing so much for scale that you start losing quality. And really like how you point out the plan and that scale goals you're looking to hit in 2027, 2028, you're planning out now. So it's not, hey, what do we do when we get there? It's no, we've been going up this climb the entire time. This is the summit we've been shooting for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice. And why do you think it's better? Why do you think now is a better time than ever for SMBs? Resources, opportunities in the market, tools, groups like yourself. Why should founders who are listening in feel more excited about their journey and going into 2023, amid even market concerns and question marks? Why is now a better time than ever?
Look, I think we're in a time of, consumers have never been more informed than they are today. If you've taken that time to to perfect your product and make sure that you've got a really strong offer to market and that you are solving a problem for customers, you're meeting an unmet need. There's so many effective ways that you can get that out to the customer. The customer knows so much more about us than they ever have before they have a meaningful conversation with us. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of all of those different channels that we have, most of them in the digital space, where a customer can come to you and have consumed a review, have looked at your website, have gone through your social media pages. If you have got a strong market position, an excellent product, you have got great reputation in market, there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. If any of those things are a little bit compromised, fix them up now, because customers are looking and they're making decisions about whether they'll engage with you before they even speak to you. So I think that's the thing. It's about foundations. If your foundations are right, there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. If things are a little bit off, that's going to come out very quickly. So you've got to have it together. But I think that just that the sheer information that is available to consumers these days can put good entrepreneurs and good businesses in a very powerful position to grow quite fast.
It's such a true fact. They know so much about you by the time they're speaking to you, by the time they're going down your funnel. They are doing their due diligence. So for good entrepreneurs, that is a plus. They are going to be able to see this showcase and all these great things that you are doing in your activity feeds. Alternatively, if you don't have much going on, that also says something, as you're mentioning. So using that to your advantage is a great thing to be able to recommend. Totally.
We work with businesses all the time and we get to know them and we go, wow, this is a really great business. Like, you could be a lot bigger than you are. You could really grow. You look at all these amazing things you're doing, but they're just not telling the story. And when they tell that story, they distill it down, they develop some crisp messaging, they understand the buyer's journey and how to get it out through the right channels. The sky's the limit. So, that's the thing, make sure you've got a really solid foundation to work from, and then your storytelling can be on point, your channel mix can reach out to those customers, and, that's where you can really start to see some fantastic growth.
Very strong words. Brooke, really enjoying our conversation. As we begin to wrap here, I want to be able to point listeners towards your funnel. What is the best way for anybody tuning in to get in contact with you? Let's say they want to learn more about 3x3. And what are your final thoughts that you would like to leave them with as a whole?
Yeah, sure. So you can get in touch with me via our website, 3by3.com. So THREEBY3.com. And for listeners, we've got a giveaway. We have an online benchmarking tool. It's 45 questions that every business should be asking about their marketing. So it takes about 15 minutes to complete. It gives you a benchmark score. You can get all the members of your team to complete it, and we can give you a group score so you can compare and contrast what everyone in your team thinks about your marketing. And that will really give you an idea as to how you're performing across those 9 core areas of marketing and sales. So absolutely free for your listeners. Send us, put an inquiry in on our website and we'll send you a link. And that's really the best way to start a conversation with us, Jason.
I love that. 45 questions about your marketing, 15 minutes, have each team member do it. Mention the podcast in the inquiry, and you'll be able to see how your brand is ranking across these 9 boxes. I actually have a couple clients that tune in regularly that I'm going to make sure they do this for. This is great. I love how you've built out that model.
Fantastic. And then I guess just in terms of a final thought to leave you with, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have probably heard this one, but there was a merchant, turn of the century in the US called John Wanamaker, and he said that, half of my advertising works. The problem is I just don't know which half. So don't fall into that trap. Have a marketing strategy, understand what's driving your business and your growth. By doing those foundational pieces of work around position, buyer's journey and channel, we really are able to make sure that you're making money from marketing. It's not becoming a black hole.
Words of wisdom there, and definitely echo that. And to be able to have intentionality around those ad spends. Very glad to wrap with that. And Brooke, want to thank you so much for dialing in here from Australia, starting the day out. It has really been a pleasure speaking with you and hearing about, the complements of the strategy and what we do on the tactical side. Have really had a pleasure speaking with you about all these fundamentals.
Great. Thanks so much. Good conversation, Jason.
Thanks, Brooke. You as well. I want to thank all listeners for tuning in. We will see you next time. Take care.